Oh, hello there. Remember me? Today we're going to be talking about conlangs. So what are conlangs? Conlang is short for constructed language, and there are many different types of conlang, such as auxiliary language, which I can't say. Contrary to that, they're actually meant to be easy to learn and to be mediums between languages. Logic languages are meant to have no regularities, they're kind of meant to be perfect. Engineered languages which have clear goals in mind and are often experimental. Natural languages which emulate real languages, and art languages which are kind of explaining themselves. They also have shorter names such as auxlang, loglang, englang, natlang, and believe it or not, it's artlang. These are some main types of languages. There aren't just these, there are many more. You can also combine them, which I'll be doing in this series while I make a language along with you. So to meet my criteria and my goals, I will be combining auxlang and loglang to create my mega language. So firstly we're going to create a phonemic inventory. So what's a phonemic inventory, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you did ask. Phonemic inventories are collections of all the sounds in your language. So before you start writing them like this, don't. That's a bad way of doing it. There's something called the IPA for that. Forget all this information, don't need it, but it's mainly this part. A standardized representation of sounds of a spoken language. Totally didn't take that from Wikipedia. So don't write your sounds like this, and don't say A as in bath, because accents exist. Like me and Will, because we come from different parts of England, we have different accents. Hey Will, can you say bath for me please?
Bath.
Cheers. As you heard there, we have different accents, and you can see the two symbols there representing the different sounds that we use. So there's also this example here where you can say it as O and you can say it as O. O is actually a diphthong, two different sounds that flow into one, whereas O is a monophthong, which is one sound. So if you don't have to learn the IPA all in one go, that's just silly. Instead, you can use tools like this one, which is a website that I'll leave in the description, that you click on the sounds
Ra, ra,
and find the one you want.
ja, ja.
And then you can simply copy it and put it in your document, or just copy the symbol by hand if you're doing it that way. There's a similar one for vowels as well. This might look complicated, and believe me, there are more rows and more columns. I've just cut them out for the sake of simplicity for this language because they weren't needed. But it's not as hard as you think it is. Along the top row, you can see lots of different words that you probably won't recognise. You won't learn them either. I know I haven't. But eventually you'll sort of learn what they mean. Along the top row is the place of articulation, which is a fancy way of saying where in the mouth you say them. Bilabial, for example, being lips, whereas glottal being in the throat. Along the left column is the manner of articulation, or how you say it. Plosive being you close your lips and then you release the air in one go, for example. Nasal being they're in the nose, fricative being they're released as a hissing stream. So let's go through the languages and how this works. So here you can see P and B. The voiceless sounds are on the left and B is on the right. Voiceless sounds obviously don't have a voice and voices do. Like P is voiceless, it doesn't really say with a voice, and B is said with a voice. T and D both count as dental, alveolar and postalveolar because they're all in that said in that region of the mouth. K, G, M. You can see there's only one sound here, most likely because you've only chosen one sound, but there's often only one sound possible to say in this part of the mouth. N, F, V, S, Sh, H. H is a good example of a sound that you can't actually represent in English with letters, another reason why you should use IPA. R, H, Y, L. And there's also a similar one for vowels. I've used a table here just to make it simple, but you saw the chart earlier, that's how they should be represented. This is often called the schwa. It's the sound of opening your mouth to a relaxed position and just letting sound out. It's often the sound that you use in unstressed syllables. I, U, E, Ö, A, O. As you can see, the front, central and back along the top row represent how far back in the mouth they are, and the left column now represents how open your mouth is. E is at the front of the mouth and is quite closed, whereas O is at the back of the mouth and your mouth is quite open. So now we move on to syllable structure. Now there's three parts of a syllable structure: the onset, nucleus and coda. The onset are the sounds before the nucleus. The nucleus is the vowel in the center of the syllable structure, and the coda are the sounds after the nucleus. Look a bit more into that now. Here I'll be showing you two example languages: English, which I'm sure you're all familiar with considering you're watching this video, and Japanese. English syllable structure is kind of ridiculous. It has 3 consonants in the onset and 4 consonants in the coda. You can see the brackets there, which mean the consonants are actually optional, whereas the vowel in the nucleus is not optional. A word that represents an entire syllable is strengths. As you can see by the IPA here, s, t, r, n, k, th, s, or at least in my pronunciation. Japanese, on the other hand, has a very simple syllable structure that looks like this. C obviously meaning a consonant again, V meaning a vowel, and N this time just means N. This is a 2-syllable word this time that uses up an entire syllable. Nihon. I probably didn't pronounce that correctly because I don't speak Japanese, but there you go, you sort of have the idea there, as it's written. Finally, we're going to talk about phonotactics. Simply, rules governing how sounds work in a language. Let's ignore that nerd stuff, and it's basically just rules of sounds. So, for example, in English, words cannot begin with ng, words cannot end with h, and l cannot come after r. Try saying rule. It just doesn't, it's just rule. So I hope that was helpful. But to continue your learning, I'm going to set you some homework. I'm very sorry about this. But I want you to choose your language type or types, create a phonemic inventory, choose Phonotactics, research IPA diacritics. That last one isn't particularly necessary, but it gets you thinking and helps you see what all those marks were when we looked at the Japanese word. That's all.